Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to the AJ Analysis channel. I apologise immediately for being ever so slightly late to today's stream. Before even starting, we've already had 2 sets of technical difficulties. So hopefully that's not the theme for the rest of the day. I haven't even checked if the mic is working. Hopefully it is. I think we are good. I think we're good for the second stream of the week. I told you guys I want to get back to streaming on a more regular basis. The Tuesday, Friday schedule, so far, going pretty strong. Today, the conversation is one inspired by Steve in the chat. Steve, good morning to you, my friend, and of course, everybody else. Steve messaged me. He had an idea of doing a sort of kind of like a mini series with streams where we look at different phases of play for Manchester United, how United should be looking to set up next season, different ideas that we can see, particularly in possession. I have gone off the path a little bit of Steve's initial suggestion just because I got carried away with some stats. So I've got some stats to back up some points today. And what we are going to be doing is today focusing on Manchester United in the first phase. So trying to build out from the back, build from the goalkeeper, particularly on goal kicks. And essentially what we're going to do is just look at how United can get better on the football pitch. Then what we're going to do in the next stream is look at United in the middle third, the middle phase, ball progression and things like that. Then we're going to do another stream on the final third, the attacking setup, how United can score more goals. And then at the end of all that, build a starting 11 with potentially some signings that allows United to achieve the things that we as a community want to see from United next season, right? So that is the plan. Before we get into any of that, though, I want to hear from you guys. I want you guys to let me know how you're doing. How is life? How are you feeling about Manchester United and transfer business or lack of transfer business? Potentially. Let me know how you're doing, though. Let me know how life is treating you as a football fan and just as a human. David, thank you very much for the 17-month membership. That's just insane. That is, I believe, pretty much from the start of memberships even existing on this channel. So David, thank you very much as always. Guys, show some love for David with some love hearts in the chat. And yes, guys, if you could please leave a like on the stream and subscribe whilst you're here, that would be great. Billy, good morning. How are you, my friend? Corey, good to see you. Bobby the Bob, I'm not sure I want to read out that message, but good morning to you, my friend. And yes, you will also notice at the top of the chat, we have a pinned message, which is a link to my second channel. That's right, I got a second channel, where I am covering and doing content on some different teams. So yesterday we did a video on Newcastle. We've done videos on Barcelona, Real Madrid, Nottingham Forest, individual players like Adam Wharton, Asensio, all sorts of different content on the second channel. So if you do have any interest really in football beyond United, then if you could please go and subscribe, that would be greatly appreciated. And there is also a link to the Discord server as well, completely free to join. Just click the link, that will take you to the server, and yeah, you go from there really. Life is all good. Love to hear that, mate. I'm only in the office on Thursday, so I'll be home for both Tuesday and Friday streams. Always perfect. Always perfect. Beautiful. I don't see any change in the transfers. It's slow and it's taking a lot of time. It doesn't matter if Richard Arnold or that accountant United are slow. Why? Yeah, I think what I would say on the, the situation with the slow transfers, I think it takes a lot of time to repair damage. We all look at Liverpool, for example, right now, acting very quick in the market after just winning the league. They're signing the likes of Wirtz, Frimpong, Kirk, whoever else. The problem is, you can't be bad at transfers for 10 years and just fix it in one summer. It doesn't work like that. There's a reputation now that we've got as a football club for the past decade. You can't just do that with a flick of a switch. Teams know that they can negotiate with us, that they can either get our prices down when trying to buy our players or drive the prices up when we're trying to buy theirs. And like I said, you don't repair that in an instant. It doesn't work like that, so it does take time. But also, just like the rest of you guys, I am frustrated. I thought we would see more by now. I was really hoping we would have 2 or 3 before the start of pre-season. I'm still fairly confident that we'll have 2. Obviously, we've already got Cunha, and I think we will get Mbumo still. I'm still confident on that one, and I think it will happen before pre-season. Maybe not before the team travels for pre-season, but before the first match. I'm still quite confident. Maybe I'm deluded, but I'm still quite confident that we'll have him in time. So it's frustrating, the transfer situation, but like there's not much we can do. We're trying to undo years of bad work. Like you guys have said there, someone like Alanga is certainly going to help. We've got a sell-on clause there, so hopefully we'll get a little bit of money for that. Pure profit, things like that will help. We need to try and get Sancho out of the door, and there's talks of a move to Juventus, which is interesting. Marcus Rashford, is he going to go to Barcelona? Because Barcelona can't get Luis Diaz from Liverpool, and they now can't get Nico Williams. So are they going to have to turn for Rashford? I don't know. Maybe there's suddenly going to be some money come into the club. We can dream. We can dream. Yeah, Billy's got the perfect example there, right? Brentford are being greedy for Mbeumo because they know that we've paid a lot in the past. Exactly. Look at Mason Mount 2 years ago, what we spent on him with a year left on his contract. You know, Brentford are going to go, well, you spent it then, you can spend it now. That sort of idea, particularly as Mbeumo is on the up at the moment. I believe we also had a gifted membership in the chat from David. We did indeed. David, thank you very much. And it went to Corey, literally just as he was about to buy one. Perfect. Corey, enjoy your membership. And David, thank you very much as always. Guys, you know what to do. Anytime you see gifted memberships, renewal of memberships, super chats, anything like that, spam some love hearts. And if you see that changing, if you see a new subscriber, leave some love hearts in the chat and also shout them out as well. A lot of staff are back full time now, so I think the whole market will pick up over the next week. Of course, we've just moved into July as well, which I believe is the new, like, the financial year resets. I think, I don't get money in football to be honest, but I think that now resets as well. So there's a lot going on. There's a lot going on. Is our season depending on Mbeumo coming? I think there's other players out there as well. Like, if we couldn't get Mbeumo, I still think there's other players that you could pivot to. Someone like Kudus, for example. I think there are other options out there. Mbeumo, it would be a massive blow if we couldn't get him now, because he's obviously our priority target for the right 10. But if we are forced to pivot at some point, then we'll do that. Would Douglas Luiz be a good partner for Bruno, at least for a season? I'm not going to tell you my answer to that just yet, because I've got a video on him on the way. I don't know if it's going to be ready in time today, but if not, it will be tomorrow. So I'm not going to give away any spoilers for that. But it does actually bring us quite nicely on to the next conversation, because when we're talking about could Douglas Luiz play in midfield with Bruno, we're talking about how would it work in the first phase, right? Manchester United last season were not good enough on the ball. Ruben Amorim came into the club in November. Seems a long time ago now. But Ruben Amorim came into the club, and we didn't really see the improvement in possession that we were hoping for. In fact, from a statistical point of view last season, get ready for this stat. This is possession losses in dangerous areas. Manchester United had the second most. So teams taking risks on the ball in the first phase, this could be dribbling out from the back, it could be loose touches, it could be failed passes. Whatever it is, United lost possession in dangerous areas, our own defensive third, the second most. More than 18 other teams in the league. More than Leicester, who got relegated, Ipswich, and the likes of those teams. Now, some of that will be because those teams, or some teams, go more direct. They play a longer brand of football, so they can't lose the ball in dangerous areas. But that's a problem, right? Because if you are trying to play out from the back, you're trying to move in these positions. Obviously, we know the upside of it. We've seen that over the past few years. But if you lose the ball, you know, you're losing the ball in an area where the opposition don't have far to travel now to get at your goal. So this is somewhere that Manchester United simply have to get better next season. And our aim for this stream is to sort of help in that area. There's also another stat which doesn't look too good, and it's this one. This is pass completion rate in the deep build-up phase. And what is that? I can't count. Is that us in 10th in the league? Again, it's not great. So basically, and I think we all saw this with our eyes, Manchester United were not very good in the first phase last season. Now, some of us will say that's because a centre-back often moves into midfield on the goal kicks, which we don't feel is optimal for the build-up phase. Some of that will be because, you know, Onana perhaps is trying risky passes. Individuals are making mistakes. Also, we don't think our build-up phase is very good in terms of on the eye because we go long so often, right? So often we sort of abandon the idea of playing out in the first phase and instead choose to send the ball long, which I think we need to address next season. I don't have an issue with occasionally going long. I think it's a good weapon. We talk about all the time about going over the press. If the opposition are going to play a risky brand of football, they're going to push all their players forward like this, why not just go over them? I think you can absolutely do that on occasion, but not all the time. And particularly if we're talking about last season, when we had Højlund up front, who wasn't really an outlet for us. You know, he couldn't really hold the ball up particularly well. He struggled with the physical battle up against centre-backs. We also had someone like Garnacho in our front three, who is far from a target man. Bruno Fernandes, sometimes in the front three, or Ahmad, or Kobe, or Mason Mount. None of these guys are big physical players that you can really send the ball long to. Now, that may already be changing, next season. Mbumo and Cunha are straight away more physical, stronger in the air than Garnacho and Mason Mount, for example. Are we going to get a new striker, perhaps, who might be a little bit better in the air? Possibly. So I think what we need to do is, at United next season, we need to make sure when we go long, we have better physical players to go long to, players that can actually deal with the long ball and then the energy in midfield to get on the second ball. But I think just as importantly as well, we also need to improve in the first phase, because let's just quickly go to a little goalkeeper stat that I found. So this is the percentage of kicks from goalkeepers that are played over 40 yards. And now this data is from FBref, and I highlighted a few of, just the interesting goalkeepers in the league. So of course we've got Onana in there with 65.8% of his goal kicks being launched over 40 yards. David Raya at Arsenal, similar numbers. Very, very similar numbers. But now just think about the Manchester United front three compared to the Arsenal front three, and also the midfield for the second ball. You think Arsenal are going long, so it's fine for United to do that. But they're going long to Kai Havertz, who is actually really, really good at using his body. He protects the ball very well, strong up against opposition centre-backs. Then compare that to Højlund, who hasn't been. You look at the players for Arsenal on the second ball, the likes of Thomas Partey, Declan Rice. We've got someone like Bruno Fernandes, who of course has energy and intensity, but again, in terms of the physicality, is lacking a little bit. If you then go a little bit lower, you look at obviously Liverpool, who won the league, Ederson, who is obviously playing for City, always sort of a model of how current teams play football, and also Vicario, actually one below for Spurs. They are sending their goal kicks long on a far less regular basis, and I think that's something we need to look at. Also, this, because we didn't always go long. Under Erik ten Hag, we actually saw progress and we started to play out from the back a little bit more. This is Onana's distribution zones, or, largely Onana, because he has been our main keeper for the past 2 seasons. So on the left-hand side, hopefully this is big enough that you can see it. You can see that United, on the left-hand side, the 2023-2024 season, 62% of the goal kicks stayed, within the deep phase in the box. 8% went to the next phase, 30% went a little bit more direct. Fast forward to this season, and 48% of goal kicks are going long, are going direct. So that's a huge increase under Ruben Amorim. We have not abandoned the idea of playing out from the back, because 50% are still going short. But you can see we are choosing to go long on a much more regular basis. And the question that we need to answer today, and that we need to figure out, is, are we doing that because we think it's the best idea? Is it the best idea to play long? Is that Ruben Amorim's brand of football? Or is it because we don't trust our players in deeper phases? We all believe, I think, that Onana is a good ball-playing goalkeeper, particularly as the short game. We've just never really used him to his strengths. Is it because Amorim doesn't want Onana playing out from the back? He doesn't want his goalkeeper to do that. Or is it actually because of the fact that, one, the system is a little bit questionable, but also that we don't trust the players that we're trying to pass to? If, for example, we had Frenkie de Jong and Bernardo Silva as our double pivot, would we suddenly see much shorter football from goal kicks? Would we put more trust, more faith in the central midfielders? These are questions which we may not actually fully know the answers to until we see, next season, until we see pre-season and then new signings at the club as well. But I think it's something that we have to have the conversation about. And I guess, first of all, that's the question I'd like to put to you guys. In terms of these numbers, how much do they concern you? Particularly with the current United squad. What does it make you think? With the forward and the midfield line being so disjointed, the back line feels like it's in pretty good shape. Yoro and De Ligt are mint, hoping that De Ligt can stay fit. Martinez this season, they can be trusted. I agree. I think for optimal Ruben Amorim football, I think we are missing a certain type of centre-back profile, which we will probably come on to shortly in this stream. I think for one season, I think for the short term, we can probably get away with the current bunch for one more season. I think, but we'll come back to that a little bit later on. Even just having the threat of a ball over the top can push a team back. 100%. I think football is such a psychological game. I made a comment the other day about Ollie Watkins in a Watkins video, and I said that when Arsenal play against Villa, they almost never go 1 versus 1 with Watkins because they're worried about his threat. That means they always have 2 players near him. If they've got 2 players on Watkins, that means physically someone somewhere is going to be free, right? So having the threat up here certainly can, ease the burden on the players in these deep positions. If we, as a team, had amazing pace, amazing ball carrying threat in the final third, teams probably would be a little bit more hesitant to press us. If they thought we were going to absolutely rip them when we moved through them, they probably would be a little bit more hesitant when engaging high. The problem for United at the moment is, do teams look at Højlund and think, oh my God, that's absolutely terrifying? Probably not. They probably see Højlund up front. No disrespect to the guy. I still think he's got bags of potential. But teams probably look at Højlund and go, yeah, we can probably leave ourselves 1v1 because he's low on confidence. So we can be aggressive. We can get after United. We can put them under pressure in these deeper phases. I think naturally having better attackers will change that conversation a little bit. I think the second you have Acuna and an Mbumo in these 2 positions, I think the opposition are going to have to naturally kind of go, okay, hold up, we're got to kind of weigh this up a little bit now because now there is more risk at the back. So maybe we can't go as aggressive. I think that will be a natural progression next season. I think we will naturally see that if we get the right signings in, which hopefully will help United in the first phase because teams won't be quite as aggressive. It makes me think our centre-backs aren't comfortable taking the ball under pressure in terms of the long distribution numbers. It isn't helped, like I've said, by the fact that one of the centre-backs does end up in a very weird position. For example, if you're, for these 2 wider centre-backs, I don't think it's such a problem. I think when you're playing out in these positions, your centre-backs should be comfortable, in 2025, your centre-backs should be comfortable there because they're facing play, they've got time as they receive that ball, and they can only be pressed from one way. Now, what I mean when I say that is because they are facing the play, you just have a forward coming towards you. If you receive the ball in midfield, you could be pressed from behind, you could be pressed from in front, and also either side. When you receive the ball here, it's all in front of you. It's all in front of you. So I think players can play under this pressure. I think Lisandro Martinez is fine here. I think Yoro is fine here. De Ligt, I think, can play in these situations. Maguire, we have a few more concerns about because he doesn't move his feet the quickest that I've ever seen. But I still think he's okay in this position. The problem is this tricky little one here. It's quite a demanding role. And like I said, if we're talking about midfield players receiving the ball and being pressed from different angles, then putting Harry Maguire into that situation feels slightly illogical for me personally. Maybe you guys can help me with the reasoning behind why we might be doing this. Because for me, giving the ball to a Maguire or a De Ligt here, and they can be pressed from this side, they can be pressed from this side, or from the forwards coming in, and they're playing with their back to goal, so they can't actually even see what's behind them. It's a little bit worrying, and I guess if we are talking about profiles, maybe, I don't think it will happen this year, but maybe next year, we need a new profile of centre-back for that middle role. Maguire and De Ligt defensively are both very good at the job, but are they good enough on the ball for this job? For the outside jobs over here, I think absolutely. For this job, are they actually good enough on the ball, De Ligt and Maguire? Or do we need a different type of profile? And if we do need a different type of profile, what is that profile of centre-back that we need at the club? What do we feel we actually need? If we had Licha, I wouldn't be worried about playing out from the back with Yoro, De Ligt / Maguire, Licha. We can have good ball progression from the back. Heaven will be able to do that in due time. See, that's a question that we were asked about quite a lot, right? When Amorim first came into the club and this idea of the middle centre-back in midfield started to evolve at United. Does Lisandro Martinez solve that problem? And this is where I think we also get the crossover to the defensive side of the game. Because almost weirdly, it's like in the first phase, in possession, what we need is an agile centre-back. Someone who can play with their back to goal. Someone who can receive under pressure and turn out from the back. That's what we need defensively. On the ball, sorry. But when it comes to defending, your middle centre-back is actually your commander. You're one who is standing in the centre doing all the box defence. So this is why, when we talk about Lisandro Martinez, it's a little bit odd. On the ball, I think it'd be amazing in this role. I think it'd be amazing in this role because he can play with his back to goal. He's one of the only centre-backs that can do this. But then when we're defending, is he really the player you want up against centre-forward? 1v1 with a centre forward. Let's say we're playing against Manchester City, to use an extreme example. They've got Haaland here. Do you want Lisandro Martinez there? And that's where I start to have some questions a little bit more. A middle centre-back will be hard to get this season. Maybe Euro in the middle with Mazraoui and Heaven either side. Obviously, when we are doing team building like this as well, we always have to consider the age of the squad. You know, Heaven, Euro, both very good players. I like them both a lot, especially Euro. I think he's phenomenal. But it is two quite young centre-backs. It's quite a young team at that point. I try Euro or Heaven in there. So, okay, I guess that's the first question, right? Do you feel... Now, you know what? Let's take this back a step. I'm going to remove names from the equation. We don't care about the names of footballers. For this central centre-back role, on the ball, what do you think, say, if you could list 5 things, what do you think this player needs? So it might be agility, it might be passing, it might be dribbling, it might be ball carrying, it might be long passing, it might be scanning ability. If you had to list a couple of things that you want from this player on the ball in this role, what would they be? What would sort of the criteria, the attributes that this player needs? What would you list them as? The key to Amorim's system is central progression in all 3 phases of play. We go into the wing-backs nearly 3 times as much compared to Sporting. That's a really interesting... If that number is true, if that figure is true, that is very interesting, because I personally think Amorim does put an emphasis on progressing the ball out wide, but if the Sporting numbers suggest something that different, then that is very much something that we need to look into. We need to look into that, because if they were playing central so much more, why is that not happening at United? You know, what's the difference? So if you've actually got a link where I can find that stat, that would be amazing, because, like I said, if that's true, that's quite impressive. That's quite mind-blowing, to be honest. I think with the middle centre-back, I wouldn't put them in midfield unless they are supposed to be free. I agree. Personally, I'm not a fan of it. It's not something that I would do. But if Amorim is going to be sticking with it, first of all, we need to look at what he needs for that position, whether we have it or not, can we get it or not, and if not, then we can reassess and potentially pivot away from it. So Snipes saying that for this position, this central centre-back moving into midfield, he wants to see passing, he wants to see agility, he wants to see positional awareness, not prone to mistakes and a good ball carrier. Pablo says agility again, a good scanner, short passing, confident on the ball and commanding. Steve says large, close control, sharp, short passer, communication slash organisation. David saying we need physicality, able to play under constant pressure, agile enough to turn in a tight space, carrying ability, and scanning and awareness. Right. I agree. I think we're pretty much there or thereabouts. I don't know if the ball carrying is entirely necessary. I don't know if this player has to really go like adventuring forward. I'm not sure. But the question is, everything that you guys have listed there, do you think Manchester United currently have a player that ticks those boxes? So let's get some centre-backs into the picture here. Let's get Euro, let's get Maguire, let's get Sandro Martinez, De Ligt, Heaven. Have I missed anyone? Mazraoui kind of is a centre-back these days. Have I missed anyone else? We'll ignore the academy players for now. We're not too fussed about them today. Is that right? We've lost Johnny Evans, of course. We've lost Victor Lindelof. Is that what we've got? 5 centre-backs plus kind of a full-back? Am I missing anyone? Maguire, De Ligt, Martinez, Euro. Shaw, again, if Mazraoui's there, Shaw could come into this conversation. I think that's everyone. Very strong, confident at the back is what Donny wants to see from this position. Do any of these guys tick the boxes? To go back to what some of you guys have said. Passing. Agility. You know, who would be the agile ones here? Perhaps Lisandro Martinez, Euro, Mazraoui, Heaven. Are they the agile ones? And then Steve has said something like large. Well, if we're talking about large, we're going Maguire, De Ligt, Euro. Confident on the ball, commanding, good scanner. Who's the good scanner out of these guys? You know, is the good scanner there or not? Physicality, says David. Again, yep, Maguire and De Ligt would tick those boxes. Euro would. Heaven maybe eventually. But then he says able to play under constant pressure. then I think the list changes again. I think we're struggling to find a player which ticks all of the boxes that we need. Which brings me to an important question here. Do you think a player that can tick all of those boxes is out there? Does that player exist? Are we asking for a profiler footballer, which actually isn't a thing? Does it exist? And if it does, who are some options that we could potentially look at? Are there names that you have off the top of your head that you think could play this role? Schlotterbeck would be one of them in terms of confidence, scanning, passing. He's bigger than Lisandro Martinez, but still not a monster in the air. Yoro feels close. Someone like Bastoni would also be close. Inacio is an interesting one. Maybe just lacking the physical dominance, a bit like Schlotterbeck. It's pretty hard to see a complete play of such. Exactly right. It's a difficult profile to find on the market. Diamond, possibly. Okay, if we were to rank this then, right, if we're talking about, we're starting to try and build a starting 11 for next season and think ahead to what our best 11 is, because we need to have that conversation at some point. How would you rank these guys? So let me put them over here on the left-hand side just to try and make it a little less messy to look at. How would you rank these guys in terms of their ability to play that position, to play this role in possession? What would your order be? Because Mazraoui, for example, ticks so many of the boxes on the ball, but can he do it off the ball? It doesn't make sense to have Mazraoui as a middle centre-back, so I think he's got to go near the bottom because he's not a centre-back. So playing him as the middle one seems a little bit illogical. Yeah, Gvardiol would be a good shout as well, certainly. Robert, good morning, mate. How are you? Casemiro as a central centre-back would be great, and then he can move into midfield, and we could also make another signing. It's a good point. I think Anton Stack at Hoffenheim is a really interesting shout as well, because he's a midfielder by nature, but has played centre-back recently, which you kind of think paired together could make sense for a centre-back which then goes into midfield. Possibly. Steve, good morning, mate. How are you? Saying, AJ, my first live stream. I love your technical work. I always learn something. Steve, thank you very much for the kind words, mate. Good to have you here. So AC says, Yoro top, De Ligt second, Maguire third. Are we talking specifically on the ball here? Steve says, Maguire, De Ligt, Martinez, Yoro, heaven. Yeah, Tchouaméni would, yeah, Tchouaméni would be nice. Don't think it's going to happen, but yes, Snipes, you're spot on. Again, that is the sort of player that could possibly do that. Really interestingly, Ruben Neves is doing something similar at the Club World Cup, where he sort of starts as a midfielder and then drops in as a centre-back and kind of floats between the two. Of course, he'd lack the physicality, but it's interesting. It's interesting to think about. The other question I want to put forward is, if we are struggling so much with finding a player at the club that we think can do it, and all the options that we've listed to potentially do it aren't gettable this summer. We're not going to sign Bastoni this summer. We're not going to sign Schlotterbeck this summer. We're not going to sign Gvardiol. I don't think we'll get Tchouaméni. Is it time to change the approach? Is it time to change the approach? If the personnel is an issue in this system, we can't change the personnel, so change the system. Let me say that again. If the problem is we don't have the personnel for this system and we cannot change the personnel, maybe you change that part. You change the system. Is that what we need to do? Do we need to look at a different approach in the first phase? Because let's go back to some of the numbers. Last season, we lost the ball in deep phases, dangerous areas, the second most in the Premier League. In terms of passes completed in the deep phase, we were 10th best from the goalkeeper. Onana was 9th for the percentage of goal kicks which went long, but we know that we're not particularly good at going long. We're not particularly good at winning the long ball. Come on to that in a second. We can see that in the past 12 months, we have increased the frequency with which we go long. So basically, it feels like we've almost accepted that the playing out from the back doesn't really work, either because of personnel or system or because of both, so we choose to go long more regularly. But again, I want to talk about how effective is it to go long. This is where Onana's kicks have ended up in the past 12 months. That's where our long kicks have gone. Now, if we look at that from a positional point of view, right, we'll come back to this in a second just so you can see it a bit clearer. But if that's where the majority of our goal kicks are going, let's try and visualize that for a second. They're going here. This is where majority of our goal kicks went last season. Now, who tends to play that position? You know, Bruno Fernandes tends to operate somewhere here. We've seen even Ugarte, to be fair, sometimes plays left central midfield, so he could sort of be in that vicinity. That's Casemiro, not Ugarte. I picked up the wrong player. Kobbie Mainoo is someone who could maybe be considered a left 10. These aren't target men. These aren't target men. Garnacho in the left 10 last season. He's not a target man. So we got to a point last season where we can't play out from the back in the first phase, right? We don't trust ourselves in the first phase. We either don't trust the system, or the system doesn't work, or we don't have the personnel. So Onana doesn't want to split the line into Maguire because he's not the right sort of player. So that's one problem. Because of that problem, we then choose to go long. We're more direct. But the problem is we don't have the players to go long to. And now you can see why United had those previous stats where we're so bad in the first phase, right? Because we've got these combinations of things, this collection of different things, which just leads to, final answer, we're bad in the first phase. That's what needs to change. Now, yes, AC is spot on. It'll be Cunha this year. That changes things. Physically, he's much more impressive. If we were to sign, for example, an Ollie Watkins up front, he is someone who could help because he offers the ability to go long to him, right? He's a good outlet. He's a good target man. Mbumo, if we sign him, is better in the air. He can be a wide target man at times. You know, he's better in the air than what Amad was or Mount was, or again, Bruno Fernandes. So I think we can improve our ability to go long next season. But to really be complete as a team, we've got to improve in these deeper positions. We've got to improve in these areas over here. And like we've already said, if the players don't fit the system, but we can't get new players, then the only logical thing to do is to change the system in this first phase. It feels like the only logical solution at this point. Now, by the way, just a reminder, this is a bit of a mini-series, this stream. You may not have heard me say it earlier. It's a bit of a mini-series, this stream. So, today we're doing the first phase. What we're going to do next Tuesday is we're going to go through the middle phase, where we're controlling possession, a team is sitting deep, or going toe-to-toe with us, to be fair, and we're trying to progress the ball. Then we're going to do another stream looking at how we can attack the final phase, the final third, how we can be more aggressive there. So we are going to do 3 streams sort of working through the team, United on the ball, different systems, different lineups that we need to use, and then eventually we'll bring it all together and hopefully have an idea of what we as a community want United to be next season, right? And I feel like it's a good little process which Steve suggested. So thanks again to Steve. It's a good process to give us an idea of actually almost understanding what we want, because I think we sometimes say, I want this player, I want that player, I want United to do this. But the things we suggest don't always add up. If we can go through the team like this, hopefully we end up with a balanced and a proper idea moving forward. So that's the plan. For the rest of today's stream, we've now sort of done a lot of the groundwork. We've discussed what's going wrong. We've discussed that we probably don't quite have the personnel to fix it, not in the first phase. But we can fix the long ball situation with signings, which is lovely. That's a huge upgrade. I'm looking forward to that. I think we can use the long ball next season and be more effective. What we now need to try and do for the rest of this stream is figure out how to solve this problem over here. And I think United have got players that can play under pressure. I do believe that. I think Lenny Yoro can play under pressure. Not necessarily in midfield, but under pressure, I think Yoro can play. I think Lisandro Martinez can play under pressure. I think Onana can play under pressure. I think Mazraoui and Dalot can play under pressure. I think Luke Shaw can play under pressure. Heaven could do the same. Kobbie Mainoo in midfield can do the same. So I actually don't think anymore that we have the excuse that we don't have the personnel for some sort of system to work, right? We used to sit and talk under Ten Hag. Not this guy. We used to talk about Ten Hag looking at the 11, trying to build a team to play out from the back. And quite often, we didn't have the solutions because, particularly in the early years, we were looking at Eriksen and Casemiro. And we would say, neither of those are press resistant. Neither of those can play in the first phase. We might, at times, when Lisandro Martinez was injured last season, we'd talk about Maguire and Varane. And we'd say that neither of those two are great in the first phase. I don't think we have that anymore. I don't think we have that excuse anymore. I think Yoro is good. Mazraoui, Dalot, again, all the players I just listed. I think we have the personnel to play out from the back, just not in a system where the centre-back goes into midfield. You know, we have the personnel to do it if we were in this shape, not this shape, unless this is a different profile of player. So what I want to do with you guys, and I want your guys' help from this, I want you to try and explain to me, and any good suggestions I see, or bad suggestions, I'll put on the screen here. And we're going to look through some different sort of structures that United could use to play out from the back. But the whole time, I want you to have the 3-4-3 in mind. Because Amorim is going to stick to that idea. The formation, it's not the most important thing in the world, but it is a sort of starting point, at least for us, to try and then kind of work backwards from. Okay, so what I want to see basically is, what do you guys think we can do from goal kicks? What can we do a little bit differently to help us play out from the back? Now, just to give you a couple of ideas, for example, you might want to see the goalkeeper stepping up, being a bit more aggressive alongside the central centre-back. The other two centre-backs split much wider. You might want to see something like this, where two central midfielders then drop into this position. Very possible. We might instead play the goalkeeper in a normal position on his line, and again push one centre-back wider, but have the other two just either side of him. And again, here I'm always getting the centre-backs in positions where they can face play. And you might drop your right wing back a little bit deeper to help out, and maybe the right forward's going to move across. What else could you do? You could move your goalkeeper back in again. Maybe a right centre-back. If this is a Mazraoui, for example, could he go in there? Maybe. Is there an idea where, for example, you could drop one of your central midfielders right onto the edge of the box in a sort of solo pivot position like this? That's what I want to hear from you guys. And I'm more interested in not the personnel just yet. Seen Kobe's name in the chat straight away a couple of times. Completely agree. Yeah, he's the best asset in our squad. But for now, actually ignore names. And what I want you to try and do is give me more positions. And we'll come on to the names to fit that a little bit later on. So talk about where do you think the central centre-back should go? Where do you think the left centre-back should go? The right centre-back should go? Now, of course, again, it's very easy for us to sit here and talk about a load of counters on a screen, right? That's very easy for us to do. At the end of the day, we're actually referencing footballers and humans, so it's never going to be quite as simple as what we've got going on here. But I still think that we can talk about ideas. So Pablo, for example, says that the wing-backs should be pushing up and not involved in the build-up, and therefore the centre-backs and the central midfielders should be the ones responsible for build-up play. Pablo, I like it. I'm going to ask you to go one step further, though. How does that look? Centre-backs and midfielders? Sure, let's go for it. How? How would you do it? Does that mean the goalkeeper coming part of a back four? Does it mean a midfielder dropping into here? That's not unheard of in football. I don't know if you guys watched much of Fluminense 2 years ago at Club World Cup. Might even be 3 years. But they had the most rotational system I've ever seen. Like, they were taking goal kicks, and you'd have two central midfielders in the box and centre-backs in midfield, and one's on the left wing or something crazy. It's possible for this to happen. Teams do this. I think it depends on your position, not a fixed thing. I think that's fair, of course. Like I said, they are humans. We've got to remember that. It's always going to be a little bit different. But again, I think we can sort of build a base idea. I'd like the keeper to be aggressive and stepping up. So you like the idea of the keeper sort of almost becoming one of the centre-backs. Because I do too, personally. I wouldn't mind a 3-5-2. So how would your 3-5-2 look on paper? Would it be something like that, for example? Let's move that the other way around. Would it be something like that, for example? Is that what you'd like to see in the first phase? Does that mean, do we have enough width there? Do we need to do something with the centre-backs? Can we split them about a little bit? Corey, I love your answer, mate. Corey says a 2-4-2-3. So let me just kind of read through this as the team goes. So he said the goalkeeper and the central centre-back act as a 2. So goalkeeper, central centre-back act as a 2. We then got a 4, which is the wide centre-back shifting. So left centre-back shifting, right centre-back shifting. I've lost the message. Where's it gone? The wing-backs push higher, like this, and 2 central midfielders drop in, like so. Is that what you're saying, Corey? If so, I like it. I love how you've explained that. So guys, have a look at Corey's message in the chat. See if you can kind of come up with a structure similar to what he's just said. The structure doesn't have to be the same, but like the blueprint of it. The structuring of the message. Chad, good morning, mate. I'm actually not warm. I'm freezing cold today, and I don't know why. Like, it's a warm day. It's a warm day, but my hands are freezing. I think it's because I've had the window open, and it's just been like a breeze coming through. I think I'd be quite warm if I went outside, though. Can we have Ahmad dropping into the back four and receiving the ball, and then Mbumo in the right wing position during the goal kick, and push Bruno into inside forward, and then rotate the positions back into normal shape again? I think we can. I think we can, David. I think we can. Mo says, could we go to more of a 4-4-2? Again, if possible, I would like to avoid names just for now, because I think there's an important step first before that. So we'll come back to names. I like what Corey's got here. I like this, and I will come back to this shape. A 4-4-2. So how would your 4-4-2 work? I guess you would go your goalkeeper. You would have one centre-back move wide, central centre-back move across, right centre-back into the back four, and you said about Ahmad, but I'll ignore the name, a right wing-back dropping into the back four. How would that work in a 4-4-2? We could go like this. Two central midfielders. Could the left wing-back then drop a little bit deeper in here? Could the right forward come deeper? Into a 4-4-2. And again, we're still doing this from Amorim's base shape and his base idea, right? We're still operating within that structure. 4-2-4 without the goalkeeper, so quite similar to this idea as well. But I think this is decent. I would like that the right centre-back should play in a right-back role. Okay, let me just get my head, like, it takes me a moment to process the messages. So you said, let's just move it back to default for a second. You said you want the right centre-back should play in a right-back role over here. The left central goes to a left-back role, and then the central centre-back in the middle. The wing-backs go up, and one of the midfielders drops deeper. Are you talking about deeper all the way into the back line? And maybe we could drop an inside forward as well? Is that what you're saying? By the way, if I interpret any of your messages wrong, just let me know. I won't be offended. Keep Ahmad high, Cunha on the left wing. Yeah, again, we'll come to personnel in just a second. Well, I'd love it, right? I'd love if we could come up with an idea here, which between us, we sort of settle on and go, you know what, I quite like that shape. And then from there, that's when we can then start talking about individuals, where the players will fit into different positions, and start talking about if we've got the players for it, or if we need to go and sign someone. Right, and that will sort of clear up what we need this window. I like two centre-backs in the box with the keeper. And for each centre-back to be the base of a diamond. So like two centre-backs in the box with a keeper. Are you fussed about which two? Oh, only the edge of the box. So you meant more like that. Oh, wrong way around. Why can't we use the goalkeeper as a centre-back so the wing-backs could push high? We can absolutely do that. More than happy to discuss that as a solution. Snipes is a 2-3 with a goalkeeper and the central centre-back first. Ooh. That's interesting, Snipes. So Snipes is about the goalkeeper and the central centre-back sort of playing together. If I've read this right. Wide centre-backs being these two with a ball-playing midfielder in the middle of them. So like that almost. Is that what you're getting at, Snipes? Don't mind that. I don't mind that. If we just throw a name in momentarily, if Mazraoui was playing in the back four, he could, in the back three, he could do this, right? Or Sandro Martinez on the left, he could do this. Chad has just alerted me, by the way, guys, to the fact that we are 27 likes off of 100. If we could please get there, it'd be amazing. If not, Chad's going to call you a coward, which you just don't want, right? Because Chad's a nice guy. So if you make him angry, you're in trouble. You don't want that. So just go back to Steve's shape. He said about two centre-backs in the box with the keeper. He wants the central centre-back to the right, the left centre-back to the left, being left-footed. So what's your split? Where does the split go from? Where does your split go from there, Steve? Where's your wing-backs? A ball-playing midfielder dropping back into the back line gives us a more accurate long ball option. Oh, yeah, I completely agree. Midfielders tend to be a better passers. Not always, but they tend to be. I guess the question is, can we then occupy the midfield with enough other players? You know, can someone else move in there? 3-2-3-2. Cunha, Mount, and Bruno move into 3 attacking midfield positions. Hoyland and Mbumo are the 2 up top. It's very attacking, but I like it. I like it. This is easily countered if the opposition striker presses the ball playing midfield. Yes, of course. Again, we're talking about counters on the screen, but they're actually going to be humans. But if we get the base idea, at least, the base kind of structure of what we want, then you can tinker and change on a game-to-game basis. Within a moment, you can change it. Whether that be one of your midfielders moves across a little bit and another one comes in. You can do that sort of thing. But sort of the idea that I want to get here is there's a lot of ways that Amorim can continue with a 3-4-3, which, again, we don't need to talk about that, but he can continue with the idea that he wants, largely. But the central centre-back does not have to go into midfield. There's different ways to do it. There's different ways to do it, because I don't think we like him in there. I don't think we like him in there. And like I said, another day we're going to discuss the next phase. So more like this area here, how United can do that. And then we'll discuss what we can do in the final third. Today is purely goal kicks, first phase work. How can United improve, basically? I do like some of the ideas that I've seen here. I'm trying to think now what I like the most, though. I'm a fan, of course, of the centre-back not going into midfield. I think that's a good idea. I guess the question I want to ask you guys is how important is the depth, the height of the wing backs? How high do they need to be, right? Because if you put your wing backs incredibly high, for example, you have a chance of pinning the opposition back. When these guys fly forward, the opposition fullbacks can't come forward and press right because they're pinned into these 2 deeper positions. So you might want to push your wing backs forward. On the other hand, if you drop your wing backs really deep, which Amorim currently does, right? Let's just go back to an Amorim structure real quick. If you drop your wing backs really deep, I can't say wing backs for some reason. If you drop them really deep, you can draw the opposition out. You see, so there's benefits and negatives of doing both. If you push them forward, you can pin the opposition. If you pull them back, you can create all this space up here, which might create the opportunity to play a little bit quicker. Because if you pull them out, you get those artificial transition situations that were spoken about before, where you draw the opposition onto you, and then you have all the space in behind to play into. It's possible. Akori says, I like my 2-4-2-3 simply because I doubt a team would press high in a 4-4-2. But if they do, then they would be overloaded in their last line still. You see, that is the big benefit if you can use your goalkeeper as an extra one. Because if you've got a goalkeeper becoming an outfielder, essentially, right? The opposition physically cannot go man-to-man. They cannot pick up everyone at once. Maybe with shadow pressing or whatever, but not literally man-to-man because their opposition goalkeeper can't come out and press, right? You know, let's say we use our goalkeeper. We've now got 11 to play with here. They've still only got 10 because this fella is not going to start pressing us. So if you can use your goalkeeper, it is huge. It's huge. The wing-backs don't need to be symmetrical for this phase. I completely agree. I completely agree with that. Like I said, you could have a wing-back deeper one side, high on the other. Absolutely, you can. Very important that the wing-backs play high. We make the best progress up the field when the ball is played up to the wing-backs and then laid off to the central midfielders. That's a good point. If you push them forward, do they create room for other people with that pinning action? Possibly. Amorim used a 3-1-4-2 against Villa and dominated. Can we start from there? I think we can. The issue is, I think against Villa, there was less emphasis on this particular phase. I think it was more the next phase, which we'll cover in the next stream. Because Villa, under Emery, they don't tend to press particularly high with a great tenacity. So I think it's more relevant for the next stream. So if you are here for the next stream, make sure to drop that message again, because I think it will be important. Make a mistake in that situation and it can be catastrophic. Oh, absolutely it can, right? But the point today is what we're doing currently isn't working. We'll go back to the stats. Last season, we lost the ball in dangerous areas, the second most in the Premier League. So it's not like we're trying to, you know, so let's say we make a change and it doesn't work. it's not the end of the world, because what we're doing right now isn't working. What we're doing right now doesn't work. So it's almost a sense of what have we got to lose by trying a different system. The worst that can happen is that also won't work. We'll go from second losses in the first phase to first. It's not that big a change, right? So we're not moving away from a blueprint which works. We're trying to come up with a new idea which is better than what we've currently got. That will involve risks. The structure I like is one with Amorim, not our manager. I try to be positive about him going into the season, but I trust him as much as I trust Rasmus. The way he managed the final is unforgivable. I think there will be people that share the opinion that they don't want him in charge of the club. The thing which annoys me about Amorim is, just to cover that for a second, I think his personality, I think he's great. I think he's got the ability to change the culture of a change room, which is vital. I think he understands the sort of player that you need, the need for physicality and intensity in the Premier League, but also the need for technical ability. It's almost like off the pitch, I feel like Amorim is so good. It's just in that tactical sort of fine-tuning where he's not there right now. That's the issue. I think he's so great at everything. I think he's got the personality, the characteristics to be a Manchester United manager and be very successful. He's just got to get that tactical fine-tuning better. That's what he needs to. That's what he needs to do. I think his off-the-pitch work will leave us in a better place than when he joined, no matter when he goes. Because I think he's that type of manager. But like I said, it's on the pitch, the tactics. I think there is something in that 3-2-4-2 from Corey. Yeah, I think I do as well. David says 3-2-4-2. The goalkeeper stays central. Wingbacks pushed higher in the front four. And two strikers splitting each of the centre-backs. I am a fan of that build-up structure. I am a fan of that. I want to go back to Corey's original message if I can find it. By the way, guys, whilst I'm scrolling and trying to find this message, if you could please leave a like on the stream, that'd be great. So let's just go back to Corey's initial message real quick. So he said 2-4-2-3. Goalkeeper and central centre-back. Where's my central centre-back? I lost him. They act as a 2. The two wide centre-backs shift, like so. I think it's very possible. Wing-backs push. And central midfielders drop. Corey, I just want to double check. That was the idea you were going for, right? That's the idea that you were talking about, I believe. Now, if we're talking about this shape, the next question I have for you guys, let's assume for now that we can do this, because we can only stream for so long. We could talk about different possession ideas till the end of time, right? There's so many different things we could discuss. We've spent an hour talking about goal kicks today. Like, we spent an hour talking about goal kicks. We're going to finish by talking about goal kicks as well. And then, like I said, next time we'll move on to the next phase. I like this idea for goal kicks. I think it's got something in it. I think what it would also give us is tactical flexibility. For example, in a game where we needed to, you could go, the right forward goes a little bit higher, the left forward drops a little bit deeper, and your midfielders shift round. You could do that, for example, if there's a tweak in midfield needed to suit the opposition, which was a concern that someone raised earlier. What if the opposition press differently? I think there's ways around it. There's ways around it with this shape. So I like this as sort of like a kind of a rough idea of what we want to go for. It doesn't have to be this exactly, but it's roughly this. What I would now say is, can you give me the names that you would play in each position from here? So our goalkeeper is in this position here. Our central centre-back is here. Then we've got right centre-back, left centre-back, left centre-mid, right centre-mid, right wing-back, left wing-back, right forward, left forward, striker. Who would you play in those positions from the current Manchester United squad? Plus, I'll allow you to talk about Mbeumo if you want, because I think he's going to join. So I will allow that one. You could make an adjustment depending on if Bruno's in the midfield, then the left wing back can... Yeah, of course, even for example, if you wanted to, you could move your right wing back inside and your right forward could move out there. Your left forward could drop in to make an extra number. Definitely, it's versatile. It's versatile. But give me some names, give me some personnel. I think the dogs are about to go bonkers because there's a van outside. Also, let me just quickly check because I just got a message about something. Let me just get rid of that. Bosh. Shaw needs to be fit all season for that left centre-back spot. He would be very good at this. He would be very good at this. I can imagine on the ball, Lisandro Martinez could be quite good here as well. So I'm just trying to catch up with the messages. I don't think we have a 2 central midfield combination who work well in them positions, who will also work in the later phases. So Snipes, for today, don't worry about the later phases. Literally pick who you would pick for this phase. We're going to deal with the later phases in the next streams, and I've got a way that we're then eventually going to settle on it, so don't worry. Yeah, I do apologise for Loki in the background. I think there's window cleaners next door or something. He's not very happy about it. He's got to let him know his boss in these ends, you know? So yeah. Yeah, let's get some names in the chat going. Let's get some names. Actually, I'm just going to go tell him, mate, you don't got to worry about the van. Oh, he stopped. He stopped. See, eventually he calms down. Normally, if you just let him see the person, he then stops. Oh, no, he's back again. He's going to stop. I think he'll stop eventually. Maybe. Anyway, yeah, give me some names for these positions. And for today, literally only focus on the first phase. Don't worry about can they cover the distance defensively. Don't worry about have they got the attacking threat that we need. Can they cross? That doesn't matter for now. I'm back, guys. I'm back. Yeah, he's barking at next door. I do apologise for that. Let him have a talk with the boss man himself. There was a delivery driver the other day who was like, let the dog come talk to me. I'll show him his boss. And I was like, it's a bit weird, mate. Can you not threaten my dog, please? It's not okay if you read him. Yeah, the streamers start. I really need to get like a I'll be right back rather than this thing. I need like I'll be right back rather than the stream's going to start. Anyway, yes, let's get back to talking about the positions or the players, sorry, for these positions. So, Alex said Onana in goal, which, yeah, feels pretty logical. Let's get the goalkeeper out of it. Central centre-back as De Ligt. Right centre-back as Mazraoui. Where's Mazraoui? Here he is. Left centre-back as Shaw. Have I got Shaw written down? I have. And again, we are purely talking first phase here. We're not discussing, are they physical enough? Are they strong enough? We're not talking about, can they sprint 90 yards? We're not talking about, can they win headers at set pieces? We're purely focusing on the first phase. The rest of it is going to come in another stream, okay? Right centre mid, left centre mid. He says Mount, maybe. And he says Bruno. So I'll put those two in for now. I think people will disagree slightly, though. Let's get Bruno in there. Ian said left wing back as Dallo. Let's get Dallo in the team. He said right wing back as Ahmad. Oh, he's barking again. Left forward Cunha. Right forward Mbumo. And your striker was Hoyland. Thoughts, guys? Thoughts? Just get a legit dogs bark and be right back and sneeze and be right back. Yeah. Yeah. I probably need that. So Corey says Onana and then central centre back is Yoro. Yoro, Mazraoui, Heaven, he says. Hang on, my thing is trying. There we go. Again, guys, we're only focusing on the first phase. Don't worry if it works for the other phases or not yet. It's not important right now. We'll discuss that another day. I've got a shout for Dallo being one of those wide centre-backs. I completely agree with that shout. Completely agree with that. I think Lisandro Martinez is someone who could come into any of these positions as well. I think Cobby is someone that I would quite like to see in here. Who would you take out for sure? Would you get... Who would you go for? Could you do this? I've lost him. Could go Yoro there. Mazraoui there, for example. Or could you put Yoro on the left? Dallo into this position, possibly. I think we do need someone with a level of press resistance in the pivot. I completely agree. If we're trying to play centrally, then you need someone who can receive centrally. I think Cunha could be good for this role. I like the idea of Dallo here. It could also be Dorgu, I think, could do that job. Even Amas could probably play in that high position. What I do like is if we need to go long, we do have some physicality up here that we can go long to. So I like that with the squad that you've built and the shape as well. What do we reckon? It's the back line. I think this is probably our best midfield too, unless we're signing someone. You know, you'd argue about taking Bruno out for first phase, but that's not realistic. Yeah, Diego Leon, he could play that role as well, I think. Yeah. I like that as well. What do you guys do about that? That's the only area I'm not 100% convinced. I would make an argument for Yoro at this point in this structure, being the middle centre-back. What would you guys think if I had done this? What would you make of that? Mr. 1 hour later's here. Good to see you, Zerg, mate. Hope you're well. What do you make of this, boys? How do we feel about that one? Bring in Dallo? Yeah, Dallo's on the left side over here at the moment. Again, we are only talking first phase for now. Yeah, Corey, I like it. Like I said, I think Diego Leon could... I haven't actually got his name down today, but yeah, I think he could be an interesting one for that position. Okay, I've got... My other dog is in my room. You might be able to... Can you see my dog or not? Can you see him? Look how cute he is. But he's trying to break out. So I'll be 1 second just to quick let him out. This will be like 10 seconds. I apologise for the interruptions, by the way, guys. I do apologise. It doesn't even necessarily have to be the central centre-back in the box, so Yoro could be there. Yeah, I completely agree. I love that back three. It's not bad. It's not bad. Those doggos are an absolute nightmare. They are so cute. They're so adorable. But, yeah. They like to interrupt the old streams. And also, like, I can guarantee what my dog does. Obviously, I close my door to record. And my smaller dog, Buster, he'll break the door down trying to get inside because he likes to know what's going on. So I'll click record and all you'll hear is Buster punching the door down. So I'll go open the door, let him in and then close the door again. So he's now in the room. The problem is he's now in the room and doesn't want to be in here because the door's shut. So then he goes back to the door and starts punching his way out again. So then I let him out and then it's quite an endless cycle. Like recording takes about an hour just with Buster alone. And then Loki gets involved when the postman arrives or something. Yeah. Don't worry about whether Dallo can cross from this position right now. It's not too important. Again, we are just discussing the first phase for today. I think we've got... I think that's good. Got to get a dog flap. That's such a good shout. That's such a good shout. I think this is good, by the way, guys. I think this is quite good. First phase. First phase only. Like I said, what we're going to do in the next stream is figure out the second phase, what we need there. In which case, we will probably have completely different profiles of centre-backs. We might want more progressive centre-backs. We might want better passing midfielders. We might want wingers or wing-backs that can dribble more. So it's going to change, right? You know, the team is going to change in each phase. The final third will want a different type of a player. We might want centre-backs that are actually more like full-backs because they can give us something going forward. But the point is, if we go through all three phases, we can figure out roughly what United can and should be doing, in our opinion, on the ball. And then sort of mash it all into one and kind of blend a starting 11 together that works. And then any positions that we don't think we've got a player for, that's where we can go and sign someone, right? And look at a player to fit it. So I think we've done a pretty good job today, I can't lie. How close are we to our 100 likes? Because that's the only thing which we're lacking right now, I can't lie. Unless we've already hit it, in which case I apologise. I can't actually see it in this current setup, which is a little bit daft. A little bit daft indeed. That's basically a makeshift 4-3-3. 5 at the back manager was a mistake. I do get it. I get it, right? It's why I say, whilst we sort of use the 3-4-3 as the base shape, the template, voice crack, the template, if you like, for the team, it's actually not too important for how it plays out on the pitch, or it doesn't have to be. You know, we're still playing Martinez, Yoro, Mazraoui as a back three that Amorim would happily use, I think. Dalot and Ahmad, I think, are wingbacks he'd happily use. The idea is that it can be different within his style and shape, right? It's why confidence. Sorry, I read the chat. The initial formation isn't as important as what everyone says. Oh, by the way, guys, we're on 121 likes. Thank you very much for the support on this stream. This has been a little bit different to what we normally do. It's been a bit like slower paced. Going through the stats, it's almost been a bit more of a logical order, to be fair. Almost a little bit nerdy as well. That's how you know the idea came from Steve. Proper football nerd. We love it. Steve, again, thank you very much for like the concept. Not putting Dorgu in our best 11 is diabolical. Again, we're not talking about Manchester United's best 11 here. We're talking about the best 11 to play in the first phase. Maybe Dorgu is a shout for that position because he does have some physicality that you could go long to. Maybe Dalot's physicality is even better though. Maybe. But I think what we've done is we've come up with something decent there for what we've got in the current squad with one extra signing. What we're going to do is on Tuesday, we'll be back at 11 AM again, and we're going to go through the middle phase. So I'll come back with new stats talking about United's ball progression or lack of ball progression, our possession or lack of, our territory, all these things. Then we're going to figure out the shape, an idea, and a little bit more on patterns of play as well that we need to use. Movements, runs off the ball, things like that. And then again, we will figure out an 11 that is good for that. And then next Friday, we'll do the same thing for in the final third. Each of those streams being 11 AM. 11 AM streams, unless preseason messes up at some point during the summer, 11 AM streams, Tuesday and Friday, every week, is the plan moving forward. And then eventually, I'm going to sneeze. Then eventually, I'll sneeze after stream, it's fine. Eventually, we'll have an idea of what we want from United for next season. So, I think step one, I think has gone pretty well. We can still talk about signings, of course we can. We can still talk about signings. We might even do a fifth part of this streaming series where we then look at targets purely for what we've created. We may well do that because that could be quite a fun idea for me to sort of, or for us initially, to almost identify the profiles that we need, and then I'll go find them and bring them back to you and say, well, we could look at this guy, we could look at that guy. I like the idea of that. And this is almost like what the AJ analysis community would do for United next season. Not just what I would do or what should Amorim do, what we as a collective sort of settle on as an idea. So I like it. I like to think that we're the community that involves you guys the most in tactical talk. I think so many people say in videos, I'll give you my tactical ideas. And so many people, I think, do that with all their content, right? Because you want to get your tactical ideas out there. I like hearing your ideas, your solutions. And I like to think that we can blend it quite nicely around here. And today, I think we've got something very good from doing that. We've also discussed different solutions. It doesn't just have to be this one. We've proven the point that the formation doesn't have to be rigid, that we can have different ideas. So I would say, yeah, job well done. Thank you very much for tuning in today's stream. We will go again on Tuesday with part 2 and the next step of this little whatever this series is. But for today, we are going to finish there because I need to go work on a video for this evening. And I also need to work on a second channel video, which is being lined up for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, sometime next week. But I've got the idea already sorted. So I am going to go and do that. In the meantime, you guys are going to go enjoy the rest of your day. Hopefully tune into the video later on. But yeah, stream-wise, nothing to talk about. So thank you guys very much for watching. Thank you for donations, super chats, memberships, renewal of memberships, gifted memberships. If you liked, if you subscribed, if you were here quick, if you were waffling away in the chat with us, if you were helping with these decisions, or if you were just sitting there quietly, thank you very much to all of you. And I will see you on the channel very soon because the content, I tell you, is just going to keep coming.